probably not alone if you are that person walking down the aisle at a grocery store and you see bread and you run away because you're nervous and you've been told that you cannot have bread as a diabetic. Well, that's actually a myth because, of course, diabetics, just like the rest of us, they're human. And who doesn't love bread? I mean, I don't really know anyone that doesn't love bread because what's better than bread? However, today, guys, I am going to talk about the things that you can have, and yes, you can have bread. So I am going to educate you, and I'm going to tell you about what kind of breads I recommend to my diabetic patients, in moderation, of course. There are people and doctors who say absolutely no to bread. Here on the Voice of Diabetes, I keep it very realistic, and of course, humans, we're not perfect. So once in a while, we're all going to indulge in things that we know might not be very good for us. In this case, I am going to help you choose the best breads that won't have and won't increase your blood sugar so quickly, and that are actually healthier options. So make sure you guys are tuning in. Again, guys, welcome to my channel, The Voice of Diabetes. I am the diabetes expert here, trying to help all of you worldwide on how to better manage your diabetes. So let's get started, guys. What kind of breads can you have as a diabetic? There are a couple things that I tell my patients they need to do when they are looking at bread, because of course we know that breads will cause an elevation in our blood sugars and we have to be very careful. I tell all my patients that, obviously in order to be a smarter and a better diabetic, you want to be educated as much as you can, how to read nutrition labels, what certain foods will do for you, and all of that goes into diabetes. So when we are buying bread, we want to learn how to read nutrition labels, and I discuss this throughout so many of my videos because really I cannot overemphasize the importance of doing that. When you're buying bread, you want to make sure you're looking for one, fiber content. We know fiber is so important for us. It makes us feel full. We know that fiber has been linked to reducing different kind of cancers, reducing inflammation, better for our heart, and obviously better for our diabetes because it makes us feel full and therefore we tend to eat less. And obviously it also slows down the digestion of food so we don't see such a spike after we eat. Therefore, fiber is going to be crucial whenever you're picking out bread. You're aiming for a whole grain piece of bread. And obviously whole grain will tend to have a lot more fiber. We're looking for oats, we're looking for quinoa or bran. Those are going to be very important things that you want to look for because again, that's going to be healthier for you and it tends to be less in calories, lower in glycemic index. You want to know the glycemic index of things when you are trying to prevent a quick rise in blood sugar levels. You always want to pick whole grain versus white flour. Every time you're reading a nutrition label, you want to look at the ingredients section. If it says whole, you know that's going to be better for you. And obviously, it's going to be whole grain. The thing is that if it says multi-grain, that can be very misleading because patients will see multi-grain and they'll just assume it's whole grain, but it's not. You want to make sure that you're looking at the back of the label. You want to see whole grain on the type of flour that they've used, and that's how you know that something is going to be a better option and that in fact will be whole grain for you. Another thing that we look at when we're looking at nutrition labels, specifically when we're buying bread, is carb content. You want to look at the total carbohydrates. That's always going to be very crucial. And the lower in carbohydrates it is, the better it is. So of course, normally I tell patients to try to keep it under 15 grams of carbs per slice. So that's kind of what you're looking for, and you want at least 3 grams of fiber or more. Actually, if you can, the more the better. So you want to lower in carbohydrate and higher in fiber, and that's how you know you're picking a better bread. And obviously always making sure you're going for the whole grain. So now that we kind of talked about nutritional label readings, well, what specific breads am I talking about? So let's talk about some of those examples, guys. You want to look at like flaxseed, chia seed, or almond flour breads. These tend to be much better because they actually have a lot more fiber in them. They have more protein and they tend to be healthier options. But again, guys, make sure you're looking at the carbohydrate content and looking at the fiber content, and obviously making sure that this is going to be the best option that you can get. And of course, as I mentioned before, you always want to look for whole grain. Whole grains are recommended by both cardiology and endocrinology, not only for glycemic control, but for other reasons, for just general benefits, such as reducing heart disease, certain types of cancers, reducing inflammation. So whole grains are, guys, the way to go. And that is something that, again, looking in the ingredients section, you want to buy organic whole grains if you can. You know, organic tends to be better and it has less additives. And we know that that tends to be better for our overall glycemic index and obviously helping us not increase our blood sugar such as quick. Sprouted bread, guys, like the Ezekiel bread, is going to be a good option for diabetics. And I do recommend this to my patients who, you know, are interested in making healthier decisions, and people that obviously love bread and cannot give bread up. So of course we want to always make better options as much as we can. The Ezekiel bread is actually tends to be whole grain and they tend to be lower on the glycemic index, therefore not having such a significant impact on your blood sugars. And then the traditional pumpernickel bread is very good as well, guys. It's made with rye flour. I always tell patients to avoid the coloring on breads. They tend to have additives that actually can increase your blood sugars. So you always want to go for the original as much as you can. And to kind of recap what we just talked about, I always tell patients when you're buying bread, of course, moderation is key. I'm not saying go home and have an entire loaf of bread. Absolutely not. Everything has to be in moderation. However, we want to choose whole grains whenever we can. You want it higher in fiber and obviously lower in carbohydrates, and trying to find one lower in calories. That's going to be crucial. Adding a protein, having a piece of bread with an egg or chicken, making it into a sandwich, that's going to be good, because we know that having bread alone will obviously raise up your blood sugar. So you always want to have a protein to kind of help control your blood sugar levels. What you don't want to do is you want to avoid white bread as much as you can. Such as wraps and bagels. Those are going to be very saturated and very high in the glycemic index. And obviously you want to make sure you're educated that a multi-grain does not mean whole grain. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the ingredients correctly and that you're being smarter. And the companies are selling the products, obviously the labels are misleading for a reason, because they want you to buy their product. No one is going to say this is high, high on the glycemic index, will shoot up your blood sugars very quickly. They try to avoid that for a reason, because they want people to, buy the product. So guys, I really want you to be knowledgeable in how you're buying things and trying to avoid this misleading labels and being smarter than the companies are selling it. So please share this video on your other social media outlets such as Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, whatever you may have. And again, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.